All right. Today is February 13th, 2022, 7:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Crypto Corner Chat episode. Man, what episode is it, Adel? Is it
Four. It's
four?
episode 4. Yeah, this is a month in.
Wow, man.
I
We've
know,
had one
right?
month. That's awesome.
I know,
Hey,
right?
hey man, it's been a busy week, It's been a busy week. I
For
feel like,
sure.
yeah, we've had a lot going on, especially geopolitically, and the markets are definitely taking note of what's happened with what the Fed talk is and
Oh,
all the.
wow.
I'm sure you have your 2 cents there, and also what's going
Oh,
on.
I'm so confused about the Fed.
Well, let's start off with it's gonna be me and Adel this week again. We'll see. Maybe I don't know if anybody else is gonna pop in. If they do, it'll be later in the show. But
Sure.
let's start with you.
Oh,
So, and
sure.
if you want to take it away, we'll go with the geopolitical part
All
first.
right. So right now, let's do with the intro. So to all our audience and our friends and family out there, if you like our content, please go ahead and press like on that YouTube, that thumbs up for us, and subscribe and show your support. And first and foremost, we're not financial advisors or experts or fund managers of any sort. We present our opinions and our ideas based on our backgrounds, education, research, and skill sets. We highly recommend you do your own research on any idea or opinion we discuss on this podcast. So today's show, we hope will be separated into different videos, one covering the geopolitics, the other one covering the charts and the whole content. And that way you'll be able to view it at your own leisure and benefit, and hope you'll find it beneficial during your busy day. So a follow-up from last week. Forbes.com publishes an article detailing the Boston Exchange's blockchain experiment and the processing of 1.7 million per second transactions. An important point, the article starts by referencing China's digital currency and their desire to have a centralized digital currency for the Chinese populace and the market. The Federal Reserve's, again, like you mentioned earlier, the Fed Reserve's expected interest rate hike. A rumor comes out from the St. Louis Fed President Jim Bullard about a hike of 50 base points. All of a sudden, you had some strong pushback from other Fed unnamed Fed officials saying, no, that's extreme. We disagree, and that's unattainable. We're looking at a maybe gradual 25 point or base point rise within the year if inflation, and everything is based on inflation, if inflation is not controlled. So a little bit drama there, which you'll cover here later on when you do the charts. Did throw the market for a loop, or maybe did not. Who knows? We don't know what affects anything anymore. But that's been, the Fed has been toying with our emotions. Inflation surged through January 2022. Consumer price index up by 7.5%, commonly used to measure U.S. inflation. Bureau of Labor Statistics above the median forecast of 7.3%. This is according to insider.com. So if you went to the grocery market like I did, $100 didn't really give me too much. And I'm storing up on canned foods just in case. I still, can afford, thank God, I can afford some meats and vegetables and fruits. How long? Who knows? So, yeah, I'm getting those frozen foods and canned. Let's move on to international. And this is all going to be covered by the charts, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't tell my sarcasm coming through, I apologize. I am very, very sarcastic today because of this week. It's been one of those weeks. International, this is something that Cal, you brought up earlier, I believe in episode 2. The Canadian Freedom Truckers are turning to Bitcoin to finance and continue their protest. This is a lifeline since Facebook and GoFundMe, We're on YouTube, so I can't say too much about that. But, Facebook and GoFundMe froze their social and financial accounts. So now they're using Bitcoin to eat, essentially, and continue their protest. Protesters are receiving crypto donations from the likes of Elon and Kraken CEO and co-founder Jesse Powell. They're sending in their cryptocurrency donations to help those folks make it through their stand up for their rights. Ukraine in international news. We know that, this has been sort of the driving force, and there's going to be a couple of things to touch base on how the Ukraine drama, and I like to call it the melodrama, the days of our lives, General Hospital, whatever you want to call it, because it is nice drama. We sent 3,000 more troops, so 5,000 total troops from North Carolina, from Fort Bragg. These troops are meant to be used as an agile force. Not that we're going to go into conflict, and you'll see once I cover a couple of points for you, because this is nothing more than, like I've said it in the last few episodes, we're just posturing and positioning, and the military complex is getting a nice little boom. People are going to have a nice paycheck. It's going to be wonderful, I guess, unfortunately. Sarcasm again, if you haven't noticed, folks. Ukraine. Russia starts military exercises with Belarus. French President Macron is leading the European peace efforts with the support of Germany. Remember, France and Macron want to lead a Eurocentric effort to resolve Ukraine issue because they see it as a European issue. They don't necessarily want the US involved, nor NATO. They want to lead the EU and build a EU army. And to a certain extent, they see the US as an obstacle. So it's sort of like the battle, Macron is waging a battle for the hearts and minds of the European and the European people on the European continent. So let's see, AP News, Putin was told Macron states Putin was told to him that Russia won't escalate Ukraine crisis. French President Emmanuel Macron said Tuesday the Russian President Vladimir Putin told him that Moscow would not further escalate the Ukrainian crisis. Russian President meets the German, President Biden meets the German Chancellor Scholz. Biden proclaims that Nord Stream 2 would stop if Russia invades Ukraine. The Nord Stream 2, just for our audience, so you would know a little background, that was initiated by the Germans, as far as memory tell me, or as I can recall. Initiated by the Germans, is sort of a German project. Biden takes it upon himself to say if anything happens, it's going to stop. Within the conference, the German chancellor never brings up Nord Stream 2. Even when he's pressed on it, never brings up the name or the term Nord Stream 2. He just keeps on saying, we're united. We're united. Hey, folks, we're united. But back to it. So Reuters, if Russia invades Ukraine, there will be no Nord Stream 2, Biden says. This is according to Reuters, or you can look it up, NBC, CNN. It's covered everywhere. U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday warned that if Russia invades Ukraine, there would be no Nord Stream 2. Again, I don't know how that's going to happen since, so you can see kind of the divide right there in NATO, which is, the Russians are succeeding in, promoting and pushing. Further, just to kind of let you know that this is a bunch of posturing and this is just a bunch of talk. President Biden he's interviewed and he's telling all the American citizens in Ukraine to leave Ukraine. Leave it as fast as you can. President Biden also tells American citizens to leave Ukraine. American troops will not be sent to evacuate Americans from Ukraine. And Holt, in quotation, and this is NBC News, Holt asked Biden that what scenario could prompt him to send troops to rescue Americans fleeing the country. Biden replied, there is not. That's a world war when American and Russians start shooting at one another. So you take it out, you make that decision. So on geopolitics, US-led, this is also built on showing you the posturing. And remember, I mentioned early on the transition from east to west in terms of power, from west to east in terms of power and influence. and how the US has been for a long time trying to tilt to the east, but have been mired and stuck in the Middle East for whatever reason. And you can see that in the Iranian JCPOA. That's their attempt to kind of finish off the whole Middle Eastern issue and tilt to the east, because that's where that's where America's interests are, and that's where we need to be paying attention to. So this is part of our effort to be involved in the east, in Eurasia, as well as China and India. So geopolitics, U.S.-led Quad bloc, which includes Australia, India, Japan, and the United States, state that they plan to deepen their influence in the Indo-Pacific. Note, America's tilt to the east. Just one more. So we want to go to the east, and the Quad is our new mechanism or vehicle to go there. So this is America's tilt to the east, counter the Chinese, Russian-led Shanghai organization, which actually, as you can see, is gaining momentum. Belt and Road Initiative. Now you have the outlet into the Mediterranean through Syria. There was an interesting op-ed on CNBC by Frederick Kemp. China and Russia released a 5,300-word joint statement in English declaring that a trend has emerged, and I quote, they quote, a trend has emerged towards redistribution of power in the world, suggesting that it's towards them and away from the U.S. and its democratic partners and allies. Follow a note on that, just to show kind of where the momentum is going. The U.S. grants sanction relief to the Iranians as part of the continued nuclear discussion. It's kind of crazy going on. So, building on that, in terms of geopolitics at this point, in terms of BTC and fiat, with all that's going on with Ukraine, with the sanctions that we're putting on the Russians, the Russian government has another, they've made the deal with the Chinese for their energy sales. If Europe stops or sanctions their energy sales, they've made a deal. They went ahead and agreed with the Russian central bank. The Russian government and the Russian central bank agreed to treat Bitcoin as currency. This is according to Cointelegraph, and it's on several sources. And this is sort of the nail that kind of should present to the audience where geopolitics is pushing international economics and the world order towards digital currency and Bitcoin as a reserve. Other than right now, you have within Ukraine, they're using Bitcoin to finance to finance and go fund, either side of the Ukrainian conflict. They're using digital currency to send money to their beloved ones or their organizations or to whoever they support. You're seeing that in regards to Bitcoin going that way towards Ukraine, and Ukraine is pushing that, and that's being, you can Google it right now and see that that Bitcoin is being used to fund those groups and those families. You see how Bitcoin is funding the Canadian truck drivers now. You see how the Russian government and the central bank is saying, hey, we're going to deal with cryptocurrency or Bitcoin as currency. El Salvador has been doing it. The nail, in my opinion, to kind of, which this is where we've always been discussing and talking about, Cal. This is sort of like, hey, folks, Lebanon. If the people don't understand the importance of Lebanon, how Ukraine right now is the biometer of what's going on in Europe and the how we're attaching it to the cryptocurrency market, Lebanon has always been the biometer of the Middle East. You want to understand the Middle East and the intricacies and what's going on in the Middle East, Lebanon is your case study. So Lebanese government planning to devalue its currency by 93%. Costing depositors $38 billion. Reuters reports explains that depositors are expected to lose 38 billion USD, while the government bank shareholders and the central bank will lose a combined 31 billion. That means the depositors are going to lose the majority. The majority will be carried by the depositors. Now in Lebanon, if a lot of you don't know, that you also have accounts that are in foreign currency, are euros and USD. So reading these articles, you also have what they're going to do is they're forcing the owners of foreign currency. If you're Lebanese or whomever you have, and you're in a Lebanese bank and you have a saving account in USD, they're going to convert that to the Lebanese pound, then devaluate it by 93%. That's kind of tough. I mean, if you're not understanding it, that means your dollar will be worth 7 cents. And if you have, it doesn't matter what currency in it, they're going to convert it to Lebanese pound and then devaluate it by 37 cents. No, I mean, and this move, I'm at a loss for words. Okay, so it's just a note. The currency, they're converting the foreign currency held by Lebanese citizens as well as the local currency in the hopes that this will initiate an IMF bailout. This is not a guarantee. This is in the hopes. On that note, Cal, please explain to us what's going on in the market, because I'm a bit stressed over all this news. Hopefully that, this is why I'm in crypto. This is what, remember our conversation last year when we were sitting at your boy's house discussing the future of fiat? Remember?
Yeah.
This is why.
Yeah.
I hand it off to you. I'm out. I'm out after this. Oh my God. Go ahead, dude.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's gonna get wild. Let's just put it that way. We have a lot going on, especially with everything you just mentioned, but also with CBDCs,
Right.
currencies, which you've talked about several times. And
Right.
I think you mentioned the 1.7 million transactions a second.
1.7 million transactions, and Forbes made it a point to say, hey, this is counter the Chinese project digital currency. So
yeah, and let's just put it. I'll just be blunt when it comes to CBDCs. We do not want. That is a sheep in wolf's clothing, or how do you say it? A wolf in sheep's clothing.
Right.
The other way. Basically that is their linchpin, right? And when I say they, we've already talked about what they is.
Policy holders.
Right. Banks,
whoever the policy makers
right.
are.
In this case, it's really the central banks. That's their linchpin to really control every aspect of the economy and how it ties into the household. Right. So because with the CBDC, because it's going to be tracked to some device that you're going to carry around your cell phone. They will be able to track where you're at. They'll be able to know exactly. The central banks will have all the data on you that is already all over the internet, and they'll have a data set on you in terms of how much you're spending on meat, how much you're spending on different items, and then they'll be able to put that into some type of AI database, some supercomputer database, and we know that.
What was that you mentioned? That was on you mentioned the program. Is it IBM?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and that's another topic, but that you're talking about, Irene.
Yeah.
So that's another interesting thing that could potentially be coming down the pike as well. But that's kind of where all this is headed, is that basically, let's say, move the coronavirus aside, but but let's pretend like we had coronavirus 2 all over again. And
Right.
and they want people to be isolated in their homes. I think in Australia, you couldn't go 5 miles outside a certain radius of your home unless you lived in a rural area to get to a grocery store. There are certain mandates that were put in place. With a CBDC currency, they can just turn your wallet off because they know where you live, they have the data on you.
Right.
And they can track you on your phone, so they could just turn your wallet off if you're
So you have
over a 5
no
mile
control
radius.
over your finances, essentially. Like it's as if you put a direct withdrawal from all your creditors.
Correct. Right. And it can, like you're mentioning, we're tilting towards the East, right? And so the East is very much you pay into a system, a communist system. In return, you expect certain things. You expect to get fed. You expect a roof over your head. You expect your basics to be met, right?
Right.
So I'm not saying that the US is heading into a communist system, but it's going to, but with the CBDC currency, you're going to get a hint of that type of aspect within the CBDC currencies, because they can control, like they can say, oh, there's, because of global warming, we need to cut back. We need to have a 30% decrease in the amount of meat.
Totalitarianism.
Yeah, it's a hint of totalitarianism, where, but it has to be accepted by the everyday person. You have to
and that's a risk, right? And that's why then you're going to see a struggle between the centralized and decentralized currency. Like, so
yeah, and this is where we talked last week when I said it's not going to work, and the reason being is because the way that in order for this to work, they have to convince us as the common man, the common woman, that we need to give up certain rights for the greater good of humanity. And it was COVID last year, this year, and next year. They tried
the Omicron.
Yeah, and this year,
the Transformer.
Right. And in this year and next year, it's probably gonna, I can see them transition to other things that are coming down the pike, like meat, right? There's gonna be a war on which many of us already know about, on cow flatulence that puts too much carbon.
Well, supposedly is the number one, and that's what they
CO2,
say. It's the number one CO2 producing in the world.
Right, and so it's creating issues with global warming, right? And so we're gonna continue.
Not that we're cutting a bunch of trees down at the same time. That has nothing to do with it.
Exactly, and not to mention that when you do farming correctly, and I do know something a little bit about this.
Right.
I bought a farm, and so you actually need animals along the.
There has to be a balance.
There has to be a balance. You need that manure. You need to be able to replenish your soil.
They need to eat right. They're good for the soil.
Right, and it's all
walking on it, eating on it, taking a dump on it, being
doing
on
it
it, whatever.
correctly. It's all about the soil. It's not about and so anyway, so that's kind of getting off track a little bit, but basically,
I mean, it's kind of go ahead.
Yeah, but basically, we need to resist this, in my opinion, at all costs. The CBDC, it would be, and I'm not saying resist central banks necessarily at all, but the CBDC currency, the way that they are setting this up,
the customer shouldn't just jump in full-fledged. You need to be more aware that you're looking at a centralized versus a decentralized.
It's a very slippery slope. It can start off benign,
right?
But you're basically giving away
it's consumer beware.
Exactly.
You don't think that, oh, it's government. Yay. No.
Right. Yeah,
It's
you have to be
not.
very careful with this because if
Right.
they could just turn your money off if they don't like what you say on Twitter,
So
right?
remember, I was telling you my point, like I am pro-government. I'm not like, but again, like I'm not blind.
Yeah.
When I first joined the military, they said, keep all your contracts. Make sure you have every single paper. We will lie to you. If you don't have that paper,
Right.
you're done. So that they teach you. I mean, there's the reason we have checks and balances. We have different
Yeah.
branches. There's a reason for that. You're not supposed to trust government. It's meant not to be
Right.
trusted.
Yeah. And
So
so
a centralized currency is not meant to be trusted.
no, this is why we need Bitcoin. Because it is and things like Bitcoin, it is it puts that in check. It has the potential to put that in check. So imagine a world where we don't have that has no competition. They could literally just do whatever they want to the currency. I mean,
Right.
they could just say, oh, yeah, Adel, you've already bought too much gas this month. We're going to go ahead and say you're cut off, after this next.
Like that's around right now. Like if for people who have food stamps, or
Exactly.
if you owe a
That's a
medical bill of some sort,
good
if it's
analogy.
like to a state, or if you owe child support and you get your income taxes back, well, guess what? You're not getting the whole amount, right?
Right. And then
Like
how likely are you to speak up when you
you're
don't like
not.
something about the government?
You're not, because
You're
you're living on government subsidies. You're living
right.
on government assistance. So you don't essentially, that's kind of like, this kind of ties into the basic income, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The universal basic income. If you have universal basic income, which is essentially they could send it out using a centralized crypto payment processing, whether XRP through Swift or whatever digital currency they might have in mind, and say, hey, okay, here's your
Mhm.
allowance for the month.
Yeah.
Better act right.
So to me, I mean, it looks like we're headed into some type of split in terms of, and we hinted on this last week, where you're going to have these decentralized systems that are going to continue to play out. It's going to be very hard to stop all of it. They'll come out with some type of regulation, and if it's too harsh, people are just going to innovate right around them. And so, and then you'll have you'll have a large group of people that are not aware or choose just not to jump on into crypto quite yet. And then if they're not careful, at some point, they could end up being forced to take something like a CBDC type of currency just for survival purposes, like you mentioned, like a food stamps, that type of thing. It would just take the place of food stamps.
Universal base income type of scenario, right?
Exactly.
Like you
So,
don't want to be dependent on that. You
right.
definitely do not want to be dependent
Right.
on
So
that.
with the rising food costs, with the rise in inflation, people they're having a very hard time finding
Right.
a way to even invest, let alone be able to pay for their food.
Right.
And this trend is going to continue. It's not going to slow down. This is something that, like you said, that we were talking about quite a while ago. This is the very reason why I bought Bitcoin to begin with.
Right.
Now what the institutions are doing, and what it looks like, if my gut tells me what they're doing based off just reading the charts.
Yeah, you've been going off this week. So yeah, let us know what's going on with the charts.
They're taking advantage of this situation, knowing, because the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay sane. So,
Right.
and the reason for that is because of the big money. The big money, this is not affecting the bigger players, the bigger whales, right?
No, they're comfortable.
This is an opportunity for them. So if you have the smaller guys like, me, just average everyday person, who
Right.
has bills they have to pay. They have a family, they have kids, they got to send to school, they got to send them to college. You know what I mean? They got to prep for college, try to put as much in the savings account for that as possible. Try to put food on the table, working 2 jobs, whatever it is. And you have crypto, they know, I'm not saying that they're attacking those individuals, but they can wear you out of your account, essentially.
Yeah.
So for them, sideways, this huge sideways action from high 60s, low 30s, that this sideways action that we had all last year and the beginning of this year, this is great for the institutions. They're collecting on this while people are just getting worn out. They're done. They're just saying, you know what? I'm done. I need them. I didn't get my moonshot. You know, it didn't happen. They're selling out and they're just leaving the market, right? While the institutions are buying those tokens for a longer term period of time, like maybe for, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And so, and not everybody can sit for 4 or 5 years on in crypto and just wait,
Right.
so things come up. So that's one thing that's happening, impact that's happening in the market is the retail that is in the market is with every dip that we have, it's psychologically worrying, putting a lot of fear and a lot of worry in the minds of retail, right?
Right.
So now what I think is going to happen, I think we're going to continue on with the same thing. I don't think that this trend is going to change. And when I say crypto, I have to put Bitcoin in a different category. Bitcoin is different than the rest of crypto.
Right.
And I wish more people talked about that. Very few people do make that distinction, and it is a huge distinction to make. Bitcoin is we like to give it the narrative of gold. It's really just its own beast. It's a completely different thing that was created, that's completely decentralized, that yes, that it does fit somewhat of a gold type of hedge. It's very volatile. I'm not that person that says you just sell all your gold and go 100% into Bitcoin. I would say do both, right? Even though me personally, I don't own a lot of gold, but
I like gold.
Yeah,
I like gold.
But
you like silver. You're a silver guy.
I like silver. Yeah. But I'm not going to say to someone, go sell all your gold and go 100% into Bitcoin. But I do think it needs to be I think it'd be irresponsible not to have it in your portfolio. I can't say the same thing about Ethereum. I can't say the same thing about Polkadot or Solana or any of these other tokens. But with Bitcoin, when we're talking geopolitics and we're talking, the market as a whole, and we're talking the big money, the big institutional money that's trying to come to the space. It makes no sense for them not to take a little bit of Bitcoin.
It makes more sense to have Bitcoin because it's not heavy. You can transport it. You get with gold and anything else, you're going to have a lot of issues. With cash, you're going to have a lot of issues. Bitcoin, you put it in your phone,
and they can buy gold too.
But you're
just
going to
just 1 or 2%, it's almost irresponsible not to have in your portfolio with everything going on in the world right now. So what do I think? I think Bitcoin is going to, I haven't broken away from the thesis of the bull thesis. I think Bitcoin can make all-time new highs this year still. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I do like this negative sentiment. It's gonna suck. But I do like the negativity in the market because that is actually that gives us the ability to buy cheaper and at cheaper prices if you believe
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
believe in the long-term narrative.
right.
So with that said, let me just pull up some charts here real quick.
Yeah, man, because there's been a lot of activity this week. And there's a lot of things that need to happen we're maintaining above 40. We've maintained that. We have to
Right.
maintain that for the next, 2 more weeks at least,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, let's see, man. This is the good part right here. Let's get into it. Yes, sir.
All right. So the first thing that I'm looking at here, obviously, is this trend line that we have right here. It looks like we're trying to hold it right now.
Right.
And I don't know which way this is going to break. So if we hold it, I think we could call this a 1, 2, 3, and either this was a 4 and this was a 5, or this is a 4 and this is going to be a 5 right here. And that would be a wave 1. Now that would be good. If we have a 5-wave structure going up on this, if you want to call this an impulse, it does look somewhat like an impulse. If you want to call this a 5-wave structure up on the move up, that's good. That's bullish. That's a bullish sign. And then my gut tells me still that we are on track for a continuation up to this. Well, the first area that we need to retest is going to be 52, which we already talked about in a previous episode, that we had to take out 40, which we did. We are now backfilling back into that area. We dipped below 42. 42 was a minor level that needs to hold, and it looks like it's trying to hold. If we can hold 42 and we can head back up and complete this wave 5 of this wave 1 that looks like it's trying to form here,
Right.
and it would make sense. This is on the 12-hour for us to find resistance right here at this pivot on this pivot here, coming into the 200 moving average on the 12-hour. So, and that would put us right about 47. Maybe we find some resistance. Maybe we spike just above it up to 49, right below 50. And then we head back into a wave 2. The Bitcoin chart looks stronger than the Ethereum chart to me. Ethereum looks much weaker. And I think that's because of everything going on geopolitically that you discussed with the truckers, with Ukraine, everything.
Yeah, man. Everyone is jumping into Bitcoin. Everybody.
Right. Because it needs to change, right? It has been viewed all last year. It was viewed as a risk on narrative to it. Bitcoin really should be separate. It's really a risk on for inflation. If the markets are going up, Bitcoin goes up faster than the markets. And then as a risk off, it should be almost like a gold. If you want to get out and you're going to have cash, gold, Bitcoin, bullets, guns, a risk off, a safe haven. So so really it should have that dual property where it's a inflation hedge and it's also a safe haven when what's getting ready to hit the fan. So that's why I think we're seeing Bitcoin looks a little bit stronger than the rest of the alts, including Ethereum.
Right.
So I do like this price action right here. And does that make sense as this being a wave 1? You understand that part?
Yeah.
Now let's zoom out a little bit. We cannot and we must not break down below this recent low right here,
Looking at 30.
that
3.
33,000. I'll have to blow it up a little bit. Yeah, so it's
Right.
about right at about 33,000. Okay.
Right.
If we do break that, it needs to be very brief. Because we do not want to flirt with this area down here. If we start
Oh.
flirting into the lower 30, like 30, 32, 30, if we start flirting with this area, like here, we only came down for about a week and then we pop back up.
Right.
But if we start hanging down here and we just start flirting with it, that will not be a good sign. In the first, if we take out 40, that's why we've been saying that 40 is the line in the sand for me
Mhm.
in terms of my
Right.
trading. If we take out 40, there is a high probability that we'll come back down to this low 30 area. So right now I'm not seeing it. However, there is that long wick on the chart right here that did not get tested. And a lot of times I like to see these wicks get tested, get back and filled before they explode higher. That did not happen. That doesn't mean it has to happen. It just means it didn't happen. On
Mhm.
the same side, we saw a long wick on this up to the upside. We have a long wick here to the upside that took us all the way up to the 45 area. So the bears are willing to defend 45, the high 45 area. The bulls are defending this low 33 area.
Yeah.
So chances are there's a high probability that we could end up in somewhat of a range, somewhat of a fake out below 40. We pop back up and we just kind of hang out in this range.
Sideways action for a while.
That is a possibility.
Okay.
Just kind of like indecisiveness. And that's not, I would welcome that as well. The problem that we're having overall, though, is that we are getting very late in this cycle, right? So
Right.
if Bitcoin is still doing within cycles, where you have the halving and then you have bullish action, and about every 4 years, you have these cycles that are occurring in Bitcoin. If we're still within those cycle periods, and that's still what's going on, then we are approaching the end. I mean, we've been in a bull cycle now from 2020, 2021. We are now in 2022. We should be really at the end of this
Right.
cycle. And technically the bull market really started in 2018. In December of 2018 is technically when the bear market ended and it went into a bull market. That's technically when this started. So
Right.
4 years, about 4 years or so from that date should put us to the end of, we should already have approached, we should be approaching the end of this large 4-year cycle by the end of, really by the end of this year, the beginning of 2023. So
Okay.
we don't have a lot of time to have a huge move to the upside, and then also have another massive cycle low in towards the end of this year or the beginning of next year. That is if the cycle theory is still at play here. And so that does have that is one concern that I do have,
Right.
is that we could have peaked here, in that we are already headed into a bear market, and maybe we'll bottom early in the bear market if that's the case, and we'll come down to this 200-week moving average, which is right at about 19 or
Mhm.
20, and then
Mhm.
we'll head back into a 4-year cycle after that. That's a possibility too. We are just in right now, we're in no man's land. We're not going to know until either we can either break, if we break this recent peak here, which is at 45.5, just call it, and or if we break down below 33, that will be the deciding factor of where we're headed. And I'll have a better, unfortunately, it's a pretty wide range,
Right.
but it is what it is. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it's built on that first episode where we said, hey, we're looking at this crossroad right here. We need to break 40. And then on the second episode, you determined that we need to, for the 30-60 day, we need to stay above 40. So
Right.
that's still within line of what
It's
you're
the same.
saying in the beginning, right?
Yeah, it's the same line of thinking. And as we're getting more data coming in from, more analysis coming in from what's going on geopolitically, and also what we're looking at here in the charts, we're just kind of building on what we've discussed in the past, and we're trying to figure out really we're trying to figure out what the market's trying to tell us,
Right.
and what structure. And right now it looks confusing. Everybody's really confused about what's going on, but at some point, it's going to become obvious what's
Right.
going to happen. There's going to be an opportunity that's going to present itself. Even if we break down and we hit this, that would be a capitulation. And if that's what the market needs to do, it's fine. Then it's time to go all in at
Right.
this with everything you have in savings, and to potentially look at real heavily at the $20,000 area.
I think Wu was saying he's trying to sell his house.
Who was?
He's trying to sell his house so he can buy more Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
But anyway,
Wu was, but like you've discussed, you as well as Monroe have discussed the possibility of it hitting 17,000. So
yeah,
I mean, that's possible.
right. And I give it a 10% chance right now. The more we hang down in this low 30 area, if we came back and retested it, I didn't like the volume, and I didn't like the buying that was coming in, then that would go up pretty drastically. But that's why I played this bounce right here too. I played this bounce. So if you remember, I sold my Ethereum.
Yeah.
Sold the Ethereum right when we broke down here, because I sold a lot. I sold some up here,
Right.
and then I sold some after we broke down right here on this break, and then I bought that back right about here on this candle right here, and then I sold that trade. I sold that recently, as in a day or two ago, right here. So, and the reason I took that trade was because I don't know what's going to happen. And the reason I sold it is because so if I would have, I'm still in my core long position that I planned on not selling, but I sold a good portion of it, and I bought it back because of the probabilities. So if we would ended up exploding out of here, I wanted to be long. Also, if we don't end up exploding out of here, I could at least just take that bounce of a trade. So it made sense to take the trade. Now, even if we go higher, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to want to get in, but I'm not going to, because I know at some point the market, just when you're forming a bottom, the markets don't, unless you have like a coronavirus bottom or something like that, it's not just going to explode out. The probabilities are that it's not just going to come down here and then just bounce all the way up to all-time new highs. That the probabilities don't necessarily favor that. It's going to take time to typically form a bottom. I was hoping for that with Bitcoin. I was thinking that was going to happen with Bitcoin once we regained 40. And that's still a possibility with Bitcoin. Though with Ethereum, it's not looking like, I don't think that's going to happen with Ethereum, because it's just not, geopolitically, it doesn't have the same use case as what Bitcoin does. in the world in terms of a hedge, right? So the sorry. So I hope all that makes sense. I don't
It
know.
does.
I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I'm hoping
No,
it
I
makes
mean,
sense.
it makes sense. I mean, definitely, like, essentially, you took advantage of Ethereum knowing that it's gonna do a little bounce back, and now it's at a point to where it could go beyond or it could not, but you're making a nice profit. So you decided to take the profit because you're still essentially in the coin anyway. So if it bounces up, you're still making a profit.
Right. And if I lose out on
You still made
a little bit
money.
more upside, I'm okay with that because I'm still long on my
Right.
core position.
Your
And
opportunity cost you already got.
and we're so late into this bull market that I don't want to be in a situation where I don't have any cash on the sidelines if we head into a bear market.
Right. You did a
And
nice
so-
little come up.
Right. Exactly. I don't want to, I don't want to be in that situation, right? To where
Right.
basically I have to go back to work or something like that. So
No,
essentially, so the, so yeah, so that's basically where I'm at. It does sound, I know it's coming off as kind of like non-directional, or not
Mhm.
really giving a direction to it, but I'm bullish. It's not that I'm
Right.
bearish, I'm bullish, but I have to look at this candle right here, this candle. That belongs to the bears. This candle right here belongs to the bulls. We have a period, this is of indecision. There is indecisiveness with Bitcoin right now.
Right.
So, which would also be normal after a huge move all the way from, 68,000 all the way down to $33,000. It could take some time. I'm not saying it has to, but it looks like the markets are setting up for this to take a little bit more time than I would have liked to get back to that all-time high. So we're gonna have to see how this plays out. Now, if next week we take out this spike right here, this candle, if we
Yeah.
take that out, I'm gonna be, major. I'm gonna be very bullish.
Right.
But right now I'm somewhat neutral. So and I think that we're heading into a period of of indecision. And unfortunately, Fed talk is going to have a lot to do with this in terms of but we need to see action. If he keeps talking and we don't see any action, eventually the market's going to it's not going to care what the Fed does. And it's just going to do whatever it's going to do, which would be to the upside. So let's see what happens Monday. What do you expect on Monday?
I don't know anymore. The Fed, I don't think the Fed knows what they want. I think what they're waiting on, all due respect and all honesty, I think they're waiting on to see what is going to happen in terms of a possible conflict, because that will determine what will be spent, what kind of resources and treasure will be needing to be used. They know there's not going to be a major conflict, so it's just a question of how much support. We're already sending troops. How much material are we going to send? The question of paying off the books versus the 25% or 25-point base point. At this point, I don't even think the Fed knows what they're doing. So I don't know.
Do you think this is all just a bunch of, you think they're trying to talk their way out of this
I
situation?
think that's what it is. I think they're in a situation where it's not good either way. It's between picking, the bad and the worse. they need a savior. I think they're hoping that, digital currency will come to save the day. I think that's why that's why the SEC has given Boston the green light. I think XRP will come out of this SEC lawsuit more powerful, and with the support, I think they need this. I think they keep on talking and talking and talking, hoping that people don't get too upset with inflation. I don't think they know what they're going to do with the inflation. Printing so much money has not helped them out the way they're thinking. I think they're just completely lost, all due respect. And I think ultimately their game right now is geopolitics and the military complex, the industrial complex. They don't want to go to war, but they're going to play brinksmanship. They're going to push it to the edge. I think the Russians understand this. I think the Chinese understand this, but they're going to take advantage of the situation to go for a new world order. I believe I mentioned the op-ed about that, about the changing from west to east. I think all that's going to happen. I don't think that we're going to come out in a good scenario. I hate to say this, but all these wars and all this treasure we spent and all this capital we spent on Afghanistan and Iraq, multiple, and now on Syria, and now that we've gone back on we need Iran to we need to close that gap so we can turn our attention to the east, because that's where we need to be. That's the new market. We don't have a taste. We don't have a taste of that. So we're stuck. We are, and we're in debt. We're in so much, like the individual is in debt.
So and I'm kind of with you and I think we've seen so much upside in Bitcoin since its inception, and the whole time that it's been around, we've had this inflationary period, and where the Fed has been, they've been lowering rates this whole period, and now we're at the first time we're in a period where the Fed is jawboning at least to raise rates, and I don't think. To me, it would make sense if Bitcoin if it did have a dump, I would not be surprised, right? In price, because it needs, whenever you get a new narrative, if the markets are looking for a new narrative to be bullish on something, it's just not going to dovetail right into that narrative. That's not how the price action typically works. The price action would need to reset itself to where it gets cheap enough to people for institutions, for bigger whales to come in.
They want to come in, and that's a lot of the posturing in the past, like you said, they want to come in, and they've been
right. And this could be a period of time where they see a lot of the retail that's been here since 2013 could get nervous, because they're seeing the end of this massive rotation of where the Fed has been essentially at negative rates for the longest time, and we're seeing them actually, if they start raising rates, that could spook some of the retail that just wants to just get out and just take some profits off the table, right? And
it's like weaning off of heroin. It's like you're a heroin addict,
right,
who's been getting free heroin, and now you're not getting the heroin anymore. So how are we going to do this without this guy freaking out? The guy being the economy.
Right.
The economy's been on heroin. They've been pumping it with free money.
Right. And so, I'm not selling my Bitcoin. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to hold. If we go up, I'll be happy. If we go down, I'm in a position where I have cash sitting on the sidelines that I can take advantage of that.
Right.
And if I choose not to take advantage of that, I'll still be fine. I'll just play. I'll just roll with it. I'll just roll with the punches. I'll see what happens. And if Bitcoin
You're
goes to
gonna
zero,
embrace the suck.
yeah, I'll just embrace it. So
Right.
it's not this is what investing is, man. It's you can't always, you know, I've taken plenty of profits throughout the years. I'm not in this, I don't want to say, I'm not trying to like be wishy-washy, but you have to look at what the market's giving you,
Mhm.
right? And if the market's indecisive, you can't force the market to do what you want it to do. And so of all the cryptos, if you want to call Bitcoin a cryptocurrency, which to me, it's something completely different. I don't consider it like any of the other cryptos. This is, even if it goes down, of all the others, it is the one token that I could see coming out of this, just smelling like roses out on the
Right.
other side out in 10 years, right? I cannot say
Yeah.
the same thing about any of the other tokens, even Ethereum. Now,
Right.
if Ethereum does make it, the gains on Ethereum are going to be more so than Bitcoin, but there's no guarantee with any.
Ethereum has outperformed Bitcoin.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that anything is going to survive. The only thing, if you're going to play in the digital space, that has the highest chance of survival is going to be Bitcoin. And we are living in times when we're about to see just what this technology is all about. So, I mean,
This
we'll
is the
see.
wild, wild west. We're transitioning. We mentioned it like we're towards the hour here, but just to kind of before we get off, we
Right.
mentioned this in the beginning that the world runs on a 100-year cycle. Every system runs on a 100-year cycle. Our 100-year cycle has come up. Now we're transitioning. In my opinion, and obviously in yours, the future is digital currency, the metaverse, Bitcoin, NFTs. That's what we're looking into. And now it's just growing pains of how and what is it going to look like and what we're going to use it for. And it's going to continuously evolve.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right.
And just know that the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay sane.
Right.
That's probably the best quote I think I've ever heard, because it's absolutely true. I mean, and so just because you can, basically, that means you can be right, but you can also be broke and be right.
Right. Right.
At the end of the day. So, so you always, it's smart to have, even though we're dogging the dollar and everything, it's smart to have.
But you have to have the dollar.
You got to have some cash on the sidelines.
Right. Until today, the dollar is going to be the most trusted fiat currency. So you're not going to put it in the euro
Right.
or the peso,
Right.
or the Canadian dollar or the Austrian dollar, or
Right.
sorry, the Australian dollar. See, I don't even count. I'm not going to go there. So
you're definitely not going to. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So I guess let's end on that, man. So you can you can find us on Twitter at it's at Crypto Corner CH1. And that's really our main handle right now. We're on Telegram. It's a closed group on Telegram that it's a closed membership. We have a very small group that a very diverse group of very, very smart, intelligent traders, investors, like-minded people in there.
Researchers.
Very good researchers. And eventually we'll open that up to more so to where we can recruit more people into that group if they if we choose to do so, and if they choose to accept. So Adel, do you have anything that you want to?
No, just hey, if you like our content, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. and subscribe so you can show our your support, and that's how we're trying to build so we can provide more services and more content and more ideas to you, and more opportunities and utilities, because we got Cal talking about NFTs and creating DAOs and establishing opportunities for for all our fans and all our viewers and our followers and members. So please subscribe and show your support and spread the word. Crypto Corner Chat. You want to know geopolitics and how it relates to the market, and you want to at least just pay attention to the charts if you don't know what you're doing, come and check us out and see what's going on. And hopefully it helps you out and gives you benefit and helps you maneuver this hectic world that we're living in, this new age. That's my piece.
All right. Peace out.
Peace out.